What's up, everybody? See, I can't fucking talk. I never do the intro.
What's up, everybody?
Blah, 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 blah. When Maxwell was on, our outro was fucking dog shit.
Oh, it was
so bad.
It was terrible.
We kept it.
We kept it? Of course we did. Of course we did.
Those are the best.
We don't waste.
Those are the
We
best
don't
ones.
waste.
Yeah.
You want me to do it? I think I could do it.
Do it. You do
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fake Philosophers. I am Danny with Mike. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Derrick Murray.
Hey guys, how are you?
Movie review extraordinaire
Yes.
Yeah.
and co-host of
Yeah.
Jack Von Nerd.
Fellow cinephile and executive nerd.
I think he's executive level.
Yeah, he's executive level. Absolutely.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
I've worked.
Hey.
Look, everybody else made sourdough during sourdough bread during the pandemic. Me, I honed my skills as a film reviewer and promoted myself to an executive.
You're
nerd, so it's good.
you're definitely
It's good. I did a
corporate.
lot.
You're definitely corporate.
Definitely corporate.
I'm regional still. All right, so
So today we're going to be talking about a couple things. We're going to talk about the recently announced Marvel that there's going to be no Spider-Man trailer, and then we're going to move on and talk about the new Space Jam movie, which has divided some people.
to be put it nicely.
Yeah, put it nicely. Mike, kick us off.
So the announcement with that there won't be a Spider-Man trailer. I am a huge fan of this idea.
So yeah,
I know in our private conversations, I had that idea, but I don't think they should have ever released an Endgame trailer. I think we already had enough information. There was already enough hype. We don't need to see anything in that trailer because everyone's already going to go. So with this, especially the hype around Spider-Man now, I am totally, completely on board with no trailer. Just give me the release date. Give me a movie poster. Good to go.
Yep. Same. Derek.
Wow. Okay. Super quick conversation.
Yeah.
No, I actually think that this is a great move. I know it pisses a lot of fans off, and I know a lot of people are pretty angry about it. But it's funny because the last couple of weekends, I've actually been going to see kind of like lower promoted films. So like I saw Pig with Nicolas Cage, which is absolutely phenomenal.
I've heard it.
I know that's crazy. But it is easily one of the best performances he's done in the last 20 years. And the movie is it's beautiful. It's an absolute beautiful film. But I saw Pig, I saw The Green Knight, I saw 9 Days. And all of these movies, very few of them, with the exception of maybe The Green Knight, has been the only one that's had a little bit of promotion and like you can see a trailer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was very reminiscent of a time when, I'm dating myself now, but there was a time when Netflix used to send you DVDs.
What's a DVD?
I know. It's like a donut that plays movies. How about that?
Quoted.
But I'm from that time, and that was the streaming service that you had. And so what would happen is the only way for you to see trailers for these movies was to have movies like that. So like you'd have to rent a movie from Netflix from a movie nobody's ever heard of. And then you'd see trailers for all these other movies that nobody's ever heard of. And then you could go down the cinephile rabbit hole and discover all of these films. So now we fast forward, and there's part of me, I used to love going to the movies and watching the previews. It was like one of my favorite things to do. I loved it. And now I don't care because I've seen them all. I've seen every trailer already, and there's no trailer I haven't seen before I go. So now it's just a waste of 15 to 20 minutes before the movie starts.
Yeah.
And it's, so for me, being able to go into a film completely blind with absolutely nothing other than what we've heard and how it's connected to the larger picture, that's thrilling for me because that's something we haven't had in a very, very long time. I call me a relic, whatever you want to do, but I love it. I love the idea.
No,
I think it's fantastic.
I totally agree. I think it's the word I can only think of is refreshing. It's something that, as kids of the 90s, it's something that we're used to. I feel bad for all of these, younger millennials and what's the new Generation Z, that haven't ever experienced this, because they're going to be like, I want my trailer now, Daddy. No, Daddy, now. And I part of me wants to see that happen. But I am so looking forward to just going into a movie blind for the first time in 25 years.
Yeah.
And I think Marvel's very smart about this, because they know Tom Holland. They know what he's capable of.
It's probably a smart move anyway, yeah.
And there's, even though they're not going to show a trailer, I feel as though we're going to get some spoilers from Tom Holland just doing his press tours.
Just rumors or something,
Yeah.
And maybe they'll just stop him from doing press tours.
Yeah, they'll just duct tape him.
No trailer, no press,
nothing.
Just lock him away.
Yes, that would be great. Just lock him in a room.
They just sequester Tom Holland in a hotel.
They just convince him he has coronavirus, and they tell him to isolate for a year and a half.
Oh yeah, bro. I'm sorry. Spider-Man is the Delta variant. I don't know.
That's all it is.
I'm sorry.
But you know what? And even you guys are both right. We're all in agreement, but. Also, even I'm guilty of going into a movie with expectation.
Yeah.
If it's from a trailer or from a review or just people talking, and if nobody has any fucking idea what to expect, it's nice going in fresh set of eyes, no bias. So
and Marvel and Disney have that kind of money where they can put that caveat on previews where they said, hey, you're not allowed to write about this until 2 weeks after the movie comes out.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And they can throw that weight around.
But that was one of those things about seeing something like Pig. Is I had no idea what it was supposed to be. Yeah. I never saw a trailer. You knew
Nicolas Cage and Pig, and you were fucking sold.
I literally, all I had was Nicolas Cage has a truffle pig that got stolen, and he goes to find it. And I was like, I don't know why or how this should be a thing, but now I feel like I have to see it. So I never saw a trailer for it, and I am so glad I did. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad I didn't, because this movie functions so much better if you don't know what to expect.
I believe
because
it.
If you go in with any kind of expectations, whether they're wrong or right, it doesn't matter. I don't think the movie functions as well. It functions so much better if you just think like, oh yeah, this is going to be John Wick with a pig. Like if you conjured that up in your mind,
you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah. You are going to be disappointed, but what you get is something better. And I feel like if I would have seen a trailer, it would have kind of led me to believe like, oh, okay, well, this isn't what I expected, so now I don't want to invest in it. Versus just taking a risk and then being treated to like an absolute beautiful film. And I miss that. I want that. So
sure.
I'm excited for it. I think this no trailer for Spider-Man is the right way to go.
Absolutely.
And you're absolutely right. I don't know if you guys can cuss on here. Do you guys cuss?
Oh yeah. Dude, we're drinking. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
You're absolutely right. Disney has fuck you money, so they can absolutely burn fans that want to clamor for that shit. Because at the end of the day, you're right. You're gonna see the movie anyway.
They're gonna see it.
Yeah.
And so before we move on to Space Jam, I do want to say, to button off what Derrick just talked about, we don't have to talk about it in great depth, but I absolutely love that Nicolas Cage has just embraced being Nicolas fucking Cage. Like he's not trying to do City of Angels anymore. No. Or he's just like, okay, I'm Nick Cage. This is what people think of me. I'm going to be fucking Nick Cage. I absolutely love it. I love him just embracing it.
He's absolutely embraced the persona of
exactly,
Nick Cage.
He's not Nicolas Cage. He's not Nicolas Cage anymore. He's Nick Cage.
No, he's Nick Cage. Yeah. But I will say this, man, and I can't talk about Pig enough. The movie is. I know that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Fine, but the movie is wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful.
I do want to see it. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
It's so good, and he is. It's the first time he hasn't been Nick Cage in a very long time, and it honestly just makes you remember, like, oh yeah, this guy won an Oscar. Like he's like a legitimate actor. Like he can do it. He just doesn't choose to often.
Yeah. But yes, so we're pro Nick Cage here. So
not the bees.
Oh, I'm all about it. He's got a new one coming out that appeared at Sundance. It's like called Ghosts of the Wasteland, and it's basically like a hyper-violent post-apocalyptic samurai movie.
Oh, I'm sold.
Yeah, no, it's one of my friends saw it for a screener, and he was like, "It's the most batshit thing I've ever seen." And I was like, "Yes!"
Well, dude, what was the movie? I wanted to see it. I think it was called Mom and Dad.
Yes.
Where
Yes.
Where
I get to see it, but I wanted to see
they're
it.
like adoptive parents or something?
No. So there's like a virus or some contagion that all the parents now want to kill their own children.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what? And I wanted to see it. I didn't get around to it either. But I just need a day where I sit down and just watch.
I haven't seen it, but I wanted to.
Because I will say this: Crazy Nick Cage is cinematic as fuck.
That's a future episode. We count down top 10.
Top 10.
Not Nicolas Cage movies. Nick Cage movies. Yeah.
Oh my God! When you guys do that, please invite me back.
He's like,
I am so on board for this.
I think Face Off might even make that cut.
Face Off will make that cut.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
So, Space Jam.
All right, let's transition into a new legacy.
Talking about batshit. Yeah. Who wants to lead off?
I mean, Derek's written about it, so
I have. Yeah. I mean, look. So I guess my question is, why did you guys decide to do Space Jam 4 weeks into its release?
Honestly, I was working last night.
Or 3. Let's see.
It's a few weeks. So, to be honest, technically, it's still within like the spoiler time frame that we given enough time. And 2, I know I was talking to Danny before we shot. I've seen you argue with people online about it. I've seen dozens, not even just you, dozens of people argue about this movie. I think you commented on it that a stupid cartoon, Looney Tune, LeBron James movie caused so much conflict online when it's fucking Space Jam, but it caused conflict online for good or for bad.
Yeah.
And so I was like, let's fucking talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So I will start. I went into the movie with the expectation that it was going to be utter, complete dog shit. Because that's just what I heard. Mm-hmm. With that said, when I started watching it, I was like, this is going to be utter, complete dog shit. LeBron James, I heard he was good in the one movie he was in. I forgot the movie with Jason Segel. Yeah. Was Jason Segel in that movie?
No, it was...
Who am I thinking?
It was Amy...
Amy Schumer.
Amy Schumer.
Who was...
Yeah, it's Amy Schumer and...
Bill
Hader?
Bill Hader.
It's Bill Hader.
Yeah,
For some
Amy
reason,
Schumer
I thought...
and Bill Hader.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I heard that he was funny in that. He was good in it. In this one...
He is, by the way.
I heard that,
He's
and that's
very
fine.
funny.
Yeah.
Him and John Cena are like the best parts of the entire movie. And they're literally like cameos. But they're easily the best part of the whole film.
Yeah, but so right off the bat, when he's like talking to his son and trying to be like serious, I was like, okay, LeBron cannot act, and they're going to try to make him act.
Yep.
Now, people make this comparison. I see online. They say, well, Michael Jordan couldn't act, but they didn't.
Right.
They didn't make him act.
No, they just said
they gave him the bare minimum of what he could do, and so it worked. They try to give LeBron James levels of emotion, which we all know you don't make athletes act.
I think the other problem that I've seen too that really bothered me about Space Jam. There are so many things that bothered me about this movie, but if we just take the bare bones, going to kind of your point of like nobody asked Michael Jordan to act, right? Space Jam is a commercial for Michael Jordan products. Like, that's what it is. And even speaking as someone who absolutely loves the movie, I could take off my nostalgia goggles, look back on it, and be like, yeah, Space Jam is garbage. Like, I'm not going to sit here and try to defend the movie and tell you that it's some kind of highbrow form of entertainment. Space Jam is not a good movie. When you talk about criteria for movies, it's a very long commercial for Michael Jordan. It's for Nike, and it's just all they do is use the Looney Tunes as product placement.
Sure.
They do it way better in Space Jam than they do here because they don't try to make Michael Jordan be something that he's not. Not only do they not ask Michael Jordan to act, they also don't ask him to go against anything he is on or off the court.
Yeah.
So making LeBron James, not only saying, hey, LeBron James, we want you to try to pretend that you can act, but also we want you to pretend like you give a shit about the fundamentals of basketball, which...
Yes.
Like, which you don't. Like,
yes.
We all know from if anybody's ever watched a LeBron James do anything, whether it's play basketball, give an interview, be in a commercial, whatever, LeBron James is a fun-loving, free-flowing guy. The guy loves to disobey fundamentals. He loves to have fun. He's weird. He's quirky. He's dumb. He's silly. Like, he's all of these different things in real life. And so the biggest difference is Michael Jordan just got to be Michael Jordan and everybody just worked around him. They were like, look, we're going to put all the fun on the Looney Tunes. You don't have to do shit. Just show up.
Just throw the ball into the hoop.
Yeah.
Just shut up and dribble.
Do that. Just shut up and dribble.
Pretty much.
But with LeBron James, they try to like create a new LeBron James that doesn't actually exist.
Yes,
and
yes,
so it feels
yes.
even worse. And you're like, yeah, but that's not LeBron James either. Like even in real life, that's not who he is.
Yeah, so now you're hitting the point. So now they're not only asking him to have emotional depth as like a father in character, they're asking him to play a version of himself that's completely not who he is. So he's not even a good actor. So you're expecting him to act as someone he's not when he's not even a good actor.
Right.
Where I think Michael Jordan, the biggest acting he did during Space Jam was pretending to fall over when his shoe was stuck to the floor. That was like, I think that was the biggest piece of acting he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so with that said, I started ripping it. The story itself is kind of dumb. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. And granted, they're like, well, the original Space Jam also doesn't make sense. Yeah, I get it, but it's hard to like the Space Jam story in the original. Actually, I'm not saying, like you said, Derek, I'm not defending that it's a great movie, but the actual story flows and makes sense. The Looney Tunes are in trouble. They look for the best basketball player in the world because it was, contrived as shit that they have to play basketball. But you know what I mean? But fine, it's a commercial. It's a commercial. But so they have to play basketball. They seek out the greatest, after these other great players get their power stolen, they seek out the best player they could find, Michael Jordan. He comes to the rescue. Cool. Right. It's not a great story, but it flows. It's
simple, right? Yeah. It's like if you strip it away.
I would argue that the best basketball player in that movie is Bill Murray. But
it's a fair argument.
I mean, look, that was something that was sorely missed from Space Jam.
I'm going to bring that up later.
We're going to get to that. Yeah,
we're going to get to that.
So
but you're absolutely right. Narratively, if you strip it down to its bare bones, even though it functions as a commercial, you can just say, hey, the Looney Tunes got into some cosmic, issue, and they need to call on Michael Jordan to come save them.
Yes.
That is so simple that you can't believe it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy, and you're absolutely. Space Jam 2 does not have that.
It's just because it's not even like so. And I know we're stretching the limits of the willing suspension of disbelief, but so an algorithm now has an ego, and like it's just what. And
what?
It's what?
Well, they're hoping that people don't know how algorithms work.
Yes, there's that. And then I'm going to try to leave alone the acting because the whole father-son thing just shouldn't have been in it.
Yeah.
But so the story itself, like a lot of people don't like it. I like spiritual sequels or the spiritual reboot. Like they said, the Jurassic World is technically a sequel to the original Jurassic Park trilogy. I'm on board with it. They could have done that here. Or what's his name? Swackhammer? Was from the first one, Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
So if he came back somehow and he's pissed off at the Looney Tunes, but Michael Jordan's retired, he can't play anymore. Who's the next guy we can get to help us?
Kobe.
Oh. But you know what I'm saying? Like there could have been a better story. Instead, they picked this weird. And I think Derek, in one of your rants online, you covered it. Like they just wanted to display their properties.
Yeah.
It was dumb. It was not. It was stupid.
And I brought this up. This was a big WB circle jerk.
Yeah, that's all it was. And it was a giant commercial for HBO Max.
Yes.
The whole movie, because when you think about how the Looney Tunes are introduced, like there was no logical reason for them to be spread about the WB universe. Like that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, what did he say?
He
just convinced them that their world was dog shit. So go away. Like okay.
There's a whole universe out there. Yeah.
Okay, but that doesn't even work as a meta joke. And then it's literally just it's just an excuse to show off all of their other properties.
Yes.
And while sure, you can make the argument that, like we said, the original Space Jam is all about a commercial, but the movie is about the Looney Tunes.
Yes.
It's about the Looney Tunes gathering basketball players and all the other stuff, the secondary. Here, the movie is about HBO Max and Warner Brothers properties that also happen to feature the Looney Tunes and a basketball game.
I would even go a step
two
further.
Separate things.
And I would say that the first movie, Space Jam, is a Looney Tunes movie with Michael Jordan. This movie is a LeBron James movie with the Looney Tunes.
Not even with the Looney Tunes. It features the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
I would even go a step further and say it's an HBO Max commercial featuring the Looney Tunes.
And LeBron James.
Yeah. But and so
you should not get to the third act of a film and the only thing you care about is who you can pick out in the stands.
That's exactly what I was doing.
Yes.
Like that's all I did. The whole last 20 minutes of the movie, I was like, I don't give a shit about this game. Oh, look, it's the guy from It. Oh, look, it's Game of Thrones. Which, by the way, if you want to make the argument that that's for kids, what fucking kid is like, oh, look, it's It. Nobody's.
We'll get to that. We'll
oh
get
my
to
god,
that.
it's Pennywise.
Game of Thrones.
Okay,
What?
sorry.
Yeah.
No. But so
Yeah.
before I watched the movie, just when I hear talk online, people are like, it's all about HBO properties, Warner Brother properties. Just how you gather expectations. For some reason, I put together in my head, it's like a basketball tournament, and all the teams were comprised of different properties. And I was like, that sounds kind of dumb. I would have preferred that.
Yeah.
Because it was just so like Daffy Duck's trying to be Superman. It was just like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And then so I was gonna kind of end on this, but I feel like it's how in a movie with the Looney Tunes. I'm not hating the Looney Tunes, but with all this shit, all this money behind it, the best character development in that movie was fucking Bugs Bunny, who, like, I'm not gonna lie. Look, I'm not saying the movie was great. I almost got a tear in my eye when Bugs throws himself in front of it. I'm not saying it's great, but you look at Bugs, who's depressed. He's depressed at the beginning. He's clearly depressed because all of his friends left. He's super excited about all of his friends coming back. So excited to where he would sacrifice himself to save his friends now. I was like, how does Bugs Bunny have the deepest character development and story in this movie?
Because your star can't act.
Yeah, I was and I'm not saying it was like the greatest. Like I said, I was just like, oh my God, Bugs Bunny died. And he's back the next scene, but that moment I was like,
inexplicably, by the way.
Yeah.
And in the real world,
they didn't even bother to explain why he survived. They were just like, "Yep, I'm back. Everything's cool now, guys." Like,
exactly.
and I will say, this movie made me, and I never thought I would say this, made me really miss Mel Blanc, who did the voices for all the characters.
But
yeah, you can hear it different.
You can hear
You
it.
can.
So I wished I liked the Looney Tunes more because I feel like they were abused by the properties that they were forced in.
Yes.
And Bugs Bunny himself is kind of a dick the entire movie, and it bothered me a lot because he is selfishly recruiting his friends instead of doing anything that would help LeBron James get his family back.
No, you're right.
Right. So LeBron James is like, hey, I need to get my kid back. This guy that slighted us both. Like, we should get all these people, and this is how we should do it. And Bugs Bunny's like, yeah, I kind of just want my friends. I don't give a shit about your kid. We'll play, but let me get my friends first. And it's like, okay, you gotta pick one. Either we have to get the friends because they're the only people that can play the game, or if you're so desperate to do all this, property stuff, let him collect all of those guys, and then they're the selfish ones. They don't play basketball, or they turn him down, or they're not as good as he thought. And then he's got to go find the Looney Tunes, and they end up being the ones.
Sure, kind of the underdog story, yeah.
Yeah, the whole time they're going through all of these IP properties, I'm just like, why are we doing this? Like, none of this is helping anybody but Bugs Bunny. Like,
yeah.
And that's not what the movie is about.
Well, you're right that it's not what the movie's about, and you're right that it's a faulty storyline. But that's what I'm saying to defend, not the movie, but Bugs Bunny. it makes sense though if he's so depressed because his friends left that he would try to deceive LeBron into getting his friends to play. So even though the story itself is flawed, I didn't mind that because it makes sense for Bugs' storyline. He's a depressed, like, if anyone needs to like have an examination on depression, watching Bugs in that movie, like, that to me was the deepest part of the movie, was that Bugs Bunny, like, this is actually a realistic depiction of a depressed person.
Yeah.
Because he's lying to people, and he's trying to act happy. Like, I thought, and that's the point is, that was the best part of the movie to me, was Bugs Bunny going through depression.
Well, I mean, and going to the argument about, like, choosing all these other intellectual properties over the Looney Tunes. The Looney Tunes have done this before, and they made that known. It's like,
they made a comment, but they
this
didn't.
Sounds familiar.
But I think
we've done this before.
I was going to bring that up of making it kind of a sequel, because they have done it before, and they kind of hint at that, but they don't just say it. Because I actually, for a moment, was in there like, MJ is here. I actually would have loved that.
They did bring Michael Jordan into it.
Did they?
Not the right one.
No, well, yeah. But my point is, like, when they first said he's here, I was actually like, okay, that's dope. That's the Bill Murray moment.
That's the Bill Murray moment.
That MJ's back.
Yeah.
But then they made it a joke, and you knew it 5 seconds in when it's just taking too long.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the problem too for me though is like, yeah, sure, the Looney Tunes have done this before, so they should be very good at it, right? They should be good at inserting themselves into IPs, right? That's something that the Looney Tunes have always been very good at.
Sure.
But two things on this is Warner Brothers, as a studio, has proven that they are not self-aware enough to make a movie about how self-aware they are. So
Fair.
that right out of the gate, I was like, no. You guys cannot make a movie about how stupid your executives are, because we know how stupid your executives actually are. Like, you can't do that. But then two, you have all of these IPs and you're going to waste them on jokes from The Matrix? Like, The Matrix hasn't been relevant in almost 20 years. How is that the crux of not just an IP, but like a recurring joke through your movie? It is 2021. No one has made a fucking Matrix reference in 10 years. It doesn't make any sense. It's so dated. Like, they don't use anything that's current. It's not like you're going through properties that are running right now, right?
Yes.
If you're really going to do that, then do it with all the properties within the last 5 years. But Game of Thrones is irrelevant. Harry Potter doesn't. Harry Potter it's done. They're not making new Harry Potter movies. Harry Potter movies is done. Matrix is done. All of these IPs are over. And
they are making another Matrix movie, right?
Austin,
they're making...
It doesn't matter.
No, I'm agreeing with you, but yeah.
But Austin Powers?
Yes.
Bent, dude, come on. Like,
okay, I will say it did kind of make me laugh.
That was hilarious.
It did make me laugh.
I'm not
but
saying,
you're right.
I'm not saying that it's not funny, but I'm saying if you really think that you're that clever to poke fun at yourself, diving back into jokes that are absolutely no longer relevant just makes it It makes it. I groaned more than I laughed because it felt lazy and stupid. It just doesn't work for me. Like,
and before we get too far in, I don't want to go off topic of Space Jam yet, but kind of to touch on the next discussion we're going to have, when all your references are to adult properties.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No kid today has seen The Matrix. No kid says, I hope no kid has watched Game of Thrones. I hope no kid has watched some of these movies. Like,
when I was, during the whole third act looking into the audience instead of watching the actual game, I was picking out characters like Burgess Meredith's Penguin, Danny DeVito's Penguin, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze, and The Mask. And I'm like, what kid today is going to know any of those characters?
Yeah. And off topic a little bit, and not to mention, like, okay, so it is a Looney Tunes movie going, and we know that. When he was putting together like his star team, I was actually kind of like, I want to see that team.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, I kind of want to see that team. Like, that would be fun to watch.
Like, how cool would it have been if he had put together that team, right? Because you already established that these are all properties that you have in the WB, right? So how cool would it have been if you put together that team and they fight and they lose the first game, because these IPs they're all individuals, right? You've got Superman trying to play with King Kong, and none of them can play as a team. They don't understand basketball, and they lose their first game. So then Algie is like, okay, fine, you can get another chance, but you got to use the Looney Tunes. So then he goes and gets Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny is like, hey, I've got the perfect team for you. Then Bugs Bunny goes around and collects all his friends. And yes, they lose the first half. They come together as a team. They remember how to do it. And bam, they win. That would be a way better movie and a way better third act.
Yeah.
And you don't need to pull a Tron where all these people get sucked into a computer and seemingly don't care. Do not care that they're going to computer all of a sudden.
Fucking the announcer's name. I forgot their names. But yeah, he's just like, oh, where are we? Well, it appears we're watching a basketball game. It's just like, well, all right, I guess.
The announcing combination of Lil Rel and Ernie.
Ernie, yes. There you go.
I forget his last name. Was just... Why?
Well, I didn't necessarily mind it. I just, like Derek kind of pointed on, like, when Ernie and him they're just kind of like, whoa, where are we? Oh, I guess I'm here to watch a basketball game. Let's comment on it. And I was like, wow, you are really casual about this. I would be freaking the fuck out.
Yeah. And it's like, you're going to fill the stands with all your IP properties. What do you need real people for? Like,
yeah.
Why? Why is that even a thing?
To go back on it, I don't see why they couldn't have connected it to the original movie more. I think it would have helped them building the story instead of trying to create this whole new thing, connecting to the original movie. Like I said, Swackhammer comes back. There's a new manager at that amusement park in the space or whatever. Like, I don't know, something. and then
Or his
two,
brother or
something.
like whatever. Like,
Yeah.
how you gonna have a movie called Space Jam and nobody ever goes to space? Like,
Well, it takes place in
that too.
cyberspace.
nope.
Shut the fuck up.
Nope. Nope.
Shut the fuck up.
Nope.
Right?
That's that WB executive shit.
Right?
That's what that is.
But yeah, and then I remember so when I was watching it, I'm not gonna lie, I might have been a little tipsy last night. It was a late night for me. I remember, so they're down by 1,000 points. Okay, because the game's mechanics, fine. And I just remember I was like, for such a minor character, Wile E. Coyote was the GOAT during that game. His move, hundreds of points. I was like,
Nobody's giving him enough credit. They wouldn't have won that Wile E.
yeah,
Coyote.
because I think it was like LeBron hits, okay, 30 points because he had the fancy bonus, and then this person's bonus. Wile E. Coyote single-handedly,
Got them hundreds of points.
yeah, he single-handedly brought him back. And I was like, why isn't he getting a medal? I just remember during that sequence, I was like, wow, Wile E is killing it right now.
Yeah. There's just there are so many. I just felt like there were so many better ways that you could have executed this idea, and that is something that, while yes, you can shit on the old Space Jam as much as you want, and you're justified in doing so. I've always felt that Space Jam really doesn't pretend that it's something that it's not. It's very honest with itself, which is why it's still relatively enjoyable, even as an adult. Yes. Because I would actually argue that the soundtrack is probably better than the movie. And
fair argument.
Space Jam: A New Legacy absolutely does not have that. But on the flip side of that, because it's so simple, the way that you broke it down, when you just strip Space Jam down to like its bare bones, that's a story that can work no matter what framework you're doing. You can delete Michael Jordan from it and still have a Looney Tunes Space Jam movie. Like, it literally still functions the same. But here, you cannot do that. There is no bare bones of this movie because it's so ingrained and rested and dependent on Warner Brothers properties trying to sell you HBO Max.
Yes, and it's also dependent, like you just said, in the original Space Jam, they have Michael Jordan, great, but they don't stretch his acting range. When you write a script where the lead actor has to have problems with his son, he has to have an emotional response seeing his son fight against him, etc., you can't cast an athlete. If that's going to be your story, because like I'm not trying to hate, like, well, I am trying to hate on the script, but if you're going to write a script like that,
you should hate on the script.
But I mean,
it's a shitty script.
I think I was trying to say, like, I wasn't trying to hate on LeBron, but if you have a script like that to where the shitty part of the script aside, where you have to have a complicated relationship with a son, you need an actor. You're not going to hire Michael Jordan or LeBron James.
They even say that in the movie.
What?
When when he goes to Warner Brothers and he's watching Algie put up his his ideas, and he's like, guys, having an athlete act, that never works out. And it's like, you are so fucking right.
And I think they were probably doing that to kind of like cover themselves, like, so forgive us.
No, look, if you really wanted to give him that much emotional depth, you recast his kids. So just recast LeBron. Just be like, look, Will Smith playing LeBron, and bam. Now you
got a movie I want to see.
Now you got a movie. Yeah.
So
I feel like Will Smith can pretend to play basketball better than LeBron James can pretend to act.
Yeah, and we've talked about that too. And I think at the very core of it, if they just, and I've said this 1,000 times now, if they did make it more connected to the original movie, to where the story was more simple, it was more about the basketball and not about his relationship or about the properties. It might have been really good because I'm a
Bill Murray cameo.
You have some sort of cameo, yeah. Like, I'm a LeBron critic in real life, even though he's on the Lakers now. But like, I would have been okay with him being a bad actor if it was a simple plot, simple thing, and instead they try to make it convoluted.
Just reverse the elements, right? Like, you can use all of those elements if you want. You can use your IP properties. You can use LeBron James. You can use the Looney Tunes. But the way they have it is, it's IP properties first, LeBron James second, Looney Tunes third. And that's not what it should be. It should be Looney Tunes first, IP property second, and then seriously, and then LeBron James third. Like, LeBron James should be us traveling through this strange world. Like, that's what it should be. But that's not what it is. So you can have all those elements, just reverse them and change the importance and how they function.
Because you're right, because even from a writing standpoint, if you just change the priority, LeBron James might still be in that movie the same amount of time, but as far as writing, if the priority of the writing is on the Looney Tunes to the properties, and LeBron James takes a back seat, he's still there for 90 minutes of the movie, but now the story is better.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what I want to say. That's what they did with Michael Jordan in the first
Yeah,
one.
because Derek said that you could replace him with any basketball player, and it's fine.
And it's because it was the Looney Tunes have a problem, and then they reach out.
Yes.
And they build that story first, so it's more organic. Right.
Yeah.
This was
and then the Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan travel through commercials, IP properties, promotions, whatever, and then it's about Michael Jordan returning to basketball.
Yes.
Like that's the trajectory of the film, and that's why it's still work. And I'm not even saying that means it's a good film. It's just a better functioning.
It makes
film.
more sense. Yeah.
It just makes more sense.
And we're getting crazy nitpicky, but like even so, Danny and I have talked about this, not on the show, maybe, but just in real life, about the Boondock Saints movie. That's weird comparison, but Boondock Saints, the first one, love it or hate it, I loved it. I remember Danny and I went and saw opening night of the sequel. Now the sequel, I know. Well, hold on.
Hey,
hold on.
Hey,
let me.
Hey, I unfortunately own it on Blu-ray, so
there you go.
I can't shit on anybody.
So unfortunate.
But the point I'm making is that I enjoyed the sequel, Boondock Saints. We could argue that's a different topic, but my point is the Boondock Saints knew their hits in the first one. In the second one, they played their hits with a new story, but they still played their hits. It's the same jokes. They recycled them. To me, it worked. Some people disagree.
Yeah.
So with Space Jam, you can still rehash some of those old hits, those old tropes, but still have a new story. This one is like they try to recreate the entire thing when they didn't have to, and it seemed like it was a lot of work for a bad product.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you could have just gone back to formula and been fine.
Yeah.
Now, the things I want to say that worked in this movie, first and foremost, Don Cheadle.
Well, Don Cheadle's going to be great in anything.
I mean,
Don Cheadle's going to be great.
He was absolutely the standout.
I hated everything about the idea of Algae Rhythm. Like even as I was writing my review, every time I wrote Algae Rhythm, I was like, ugh. It's so stupid to me. Like just saying it out loud, it just hurts my feelings.
I hated everything about it. Yes.
And it's so lazy. But I hate everything about the character. But Don Cheadle, I don't know why they don't let that guy overact more.
What you mean? Why don't they let him Nick Cage more?
Dude, oh my God, Don Cheadle, Nick Caging, sign me up! Like, no holds barred. Don Cheadle is the best Don Cheadle. I loved it.
You could tell he was having a great time.
He was having a blast doing whatever the fuck he wanted. Yeah. And I will say I liked the video game aspect of the game. Because I mean, I'll admit it right now. I'm a huge fan of slam ball. If you're not familiar with that, it's basketball with trampolines and full contact.
Yeah, for sure. That's some ESPN Ocho shit.
Yeah,
and it's
wonderful. Great. I fucking love it.
It's so good.
So like introducing like the power ups and like the bonuses.
I didn't mind that as much.
I didn't mind that at all. I actually thought it was like, this is really cool.
Because then it, like you said, the one thing it got right is that LeBron James, arguably one of the greatest in the world, is now out of his element.
Yeah.
So I kind of, it's an obstacle. I get it. It's fine.
Yeah. But, and to your point, Mike, it is also a way to retread the same trope, but add a little bit of flair.
Yeah.
Right? Because
a little bit.
It's still a basketball game. And, you're still taking somebody out of your element, but you're updating it a little bit. It's no longer this outdated, oh yeah, they're overpowering us. Oh, the game itself is different. So now we have to play a different form of basketball.
Sure. Yeah. No, you're right.
And that's what worked for me was that aspect, and then Don Cheadle.
And so this goes back. I'm now. I think we were about to talk about the good things, but I'm going back to the bad things. So one thing I do like cameos. Like one of my favorite cameos of all time is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Airplane. I loved it. I love those little things. And so the original Space Jam, I love that they got like Charles Barkley, Muggsy Bogues, like these guys to play kind of important characters. The way they treated the supporting NBA players and WNBA players was utter dog shit to me.
Oh yeah,
where you just kind of saw them and then they became monstrosities.
Well, I want to say the characters were voiced by them.
No, I get that, but I mean like the Monstars, like they took the powers, whatever, but like. You just had these monstrosities, like, and then you saw them for maybe 10 seconds. The actual players, like
to the point where I couldn't name a single one of them. I could tell you.
I know it's Damian,
Charles Barkley, Bugs.
Oh, them, yeah.
But like of the original cat, they're at least Malone. Like they get enough of a story. It's short, but they get enough of a story to where like
even if you're not a fan,
all these years later, even if you don't actually know who they are, you're gonna remember who they are. Here, I couldn't tell you a single person. that is playing on the other team. I have no
Yeah.
idea. I have no idea.
I would have just preferred if they. So this guy is sucking all these people into the game. He could have easily just sucked in the players in the game, mind controlled them, and now you actually have 5 hard players killing it. I just like if you're gonna have their cameos, make the cameos matter. Like you said, I'm not familiar with a lot of the WNBA players, but I know Damian Lillard was in there. No, I know the guy. I'm just blanking on his name. But the point is, like, we don't. In the early '90s, those 5 players were a big deal. So everyone who watched the movie knew who they were.
They were Dream Team players.
Yeah. So I just those cameos bugged me because then they turn them into these fucking weird X-Men.
Yeah, like
There's just
like what?
It was funny
What
because,
is happening?
like, in the first act, when you see the kid, like, he's like, all right, I'm going to give this character this attribute. And he's, like, taking pictures of the tarantula and the snake. I'm
this
like,
is foreboding.
that's going to come up later in the third act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the water fire guy, I was like, you can't stop him. All of a sudden,
Wet fire. Jesus
dumb.
Christ. And then the rap battle in the middle of the fucking game.
I didn't like that at all.
Jesus. With Jam Master Porky.
And then what sucks is that
and then it's just with another outdated meme. Nobody uses that fucking GIF anymore. Nobody uses the GIF of the Nobody uses that
I did
anymore.
love that though.
It's so awful.
When Tweety goes by the screen. I love that.
But again, not a kid's
I'm partial
reference.
to that meme.
That we get the
It's
reference.
not a kid's reference.
We get that reference.
But then even the rap battle, it forced LeBron to act more. So he's in the background like, and he just looks uncomfortable. He looks like it's a weird comparison. He looks like that white parent at a black party who's trying to fit in, who's just like, and it's just like, it was so
It
cringe.
just doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no point to it. It does.
I'm getting embarrassed. I'm getting embarrassed
thinking
thinking about it.
game. Like, yeah, it's.
Oh no, they got rap
so
battle points, right? The little bonus rap battle points.
They got the bonus rap battle points.
Sure, okay.
I don't even.
But no, you're absolutely right. Those characters are completely wasted. And honestly, you would have been better served for the kid and Algae Rhythm to literally just make them up. Like,
you might as well.
Any
You might as well, yeah.
You might just make them up. Just be, Algae. They can have a conversation. Algae Rhythm can be like, look, I can literally create anybody that you want, anything that you want. You want to give them powers. You want to make them control time. I can do it. And the kid's like, oh yeah, that's stuff I never even thought of before. All right, cool. I'm going to give this guy fire and ice and whatever. Like, he just creates them. That would have been better than trying to waste these NBA players.
Or we make it a kid's movie and he tells the kid, hey, we have these properties. Pick your team.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, LeBron tried to do. Now the kid's like, cool.
I get to do
Superman.
Yeah.
Godzilla. Not God. King Kong, whoever. So now the kid has this super crazy team. It's like, okay, now it's kind of a kid's movie because the kid is picking his properties and we don't have to waste these cameos. Anyway, so now I think everyone's clear where we feel about the movie.
Yeah, I think we're there.
So now,
5 out of 5, right, guys? 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
That's the collective rating.
So I did have one more thing to say because I was going to say it earlier, then we got off topic. To touch on something Derek brought up. If the movie is self-aware, it does make the movie better.
Yeah.
For instance, Sharknado. I'm not saying it's good, but the movie is self-aware. And so when you go into it, you can tell it's self-aware. You can tell it's being silly. It becomes more enjoyable and acceptable because they know what it is. Other movies that are just really bad, not on purpose, are just bad. So this movie, and this kind of related to the kids thing, I think. It's like if it's going to be a kids movie, make it a kids movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Don't, like we talked about, don't bring up the adult references, Game of Thrones, and all these adult jokes that we got when we were kids. It's a throwback movie then. Yeah. So now transitioning, Derek, I've seen, like I said, 1,000 arguments from you, other people. The defense of this movie has been, for the most part, but it's a kids movie. And that's not the criteria for what makes a good movie. Mm-hmm. And I think it was with one of your friends, Derek, that I kind of got into it with you, or I got into it a few different arguments as well. Yeah. But the argument was enjoyability does not equate quality. Mm-hmm. I enjoy Batman and Robin. Is that a good movie? No. I enjoy it. Yeah. So even in college, there was this musical. It's called The Musical Musicals. It's kind of a comedy that makes fun of different musicals. We did it. I watched it, and it was funny as hell. It was enjoyable. One of our professors commented like, and she started criticizing the actors. One of them was in our class. And they're like, yeah, but it's just a comedy. It's not supposed to be taken seriously. And she's like, yeah, but then you're a weaker actor if that's how you approach it, because you can still have character development. You can still take your time to develop your character. Well, I just said that,
Right.
but like study it and everything. And that's kind of now the argument here is like, kids' movies aren't inherently bad.
No.
Right.
You could have great.
Right.
I think Derek, you might have said it.
And there's
Finding Nemo, Toy Story.
There's a point I want to make here. Because I watched them both on the same day. I watched The Mitchells versus the Machines, and I watched Space Jam. And both are kind of the same story when you like strip it down. Both are about parents connecting with their kids and their interactions. And
like the overarch.
the overarch, yeah. And so what I think, The Mitchells versus the Machines, that is a kid's movie. It plays on a bunch of, kids, pop culture and what have you. These kids are coming into YouTube now and the digital universe. And I think they did it so much better than Space Jam did it. And it was more enjoyable. It was more believable. It was more fun. And they didn't need LeBron James. They didn't need the Looney Tunes. They did it all by themselves. And I think they were better off for it.
And as an adult, you enjoyed it.
And as an adult watching this kid's movie, I enjoyed it immensely. There was I think a bigger catharsis at the end for that movie than for Space Jam.
Sure.
Yeah, and there's so this whole argument that it's a kid's movie. What did you expect? That's an absolute cop out. And films don't get a pass because they're in a specific genre.
Yes.
That's just simply not how films work. And I saw a number of people try to make an argument of like, oh, well, they're just there to, sell tickets and sell toys and whatever. And it's like, okay, but all movies are like that. Every property out there is films in general, especially blockbusters, mass media, even ones we all love, like Marvel and all of that, is specifically exist to make money.
It's literally called a business. Yeah,
it's the film industry. There's a reason people are desperately trying to make money off of these things. So nobody's lying to themselves by saying that, oh well, this movie was just trying to get more money out of kids. Well, yeah, all movies are trying to do that. They're trying to get money out of you as an adult. They're trying to get money out of children. So that's a moot argument. Every single film that exists has that baseline. So that's not a good argument. Trying to lead into this, oh, well, it's a kid's movie, therefore you shouldn't expect quality. But that's not fair either, because every single film genre has its own criteria. Every single film genre. And there are good kids movies and there are bad kids movies. There are good I hate rom-coms. I hate them.
For the most part.
It's not a genre that's made for me. But there are good rom-coms and there are bad rom-coms. There are good action movies and there are bad action movies. There's good superhero movies and bad. There's good dramas and bad. They all function within the genre that they're in. So this baseline of like, well, all kids movies are shit. That's not true. That's wrong.
And it's a weird comparison, but are you familiar with Untapped, the app on your phone, Derek?
No.
So I know Danny is. I am too. It's a beer drinking app. You pretty much like check in your beers. It's almost like Facebook for beers. You check in your beers, you rate, etc.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
So for me, being a beer drinker, I know I don't like sours, like sour beers. Okay. Yeah. So if I drink a sour beer and I say this is not a good beer, it's a sour beer, I don't like it. And someone says like, oh, or I say I don't like it, and they're like, well, it's a sour beer. What do you expect? It's not fair then. Like I could say, okay, I don't like sour beers. So I'm going to try this. I don't like it. But I could tell if someone likes sour beers, they will enjoy that. And that's where I kind of think the same thing. Like you said, I'm not big on some rom-coms I like, but I'm not big on romantic dramas. The Notebook, for instance, I watched that movie. Did not enjoy it. I didn't really enjoy it. But watching it, I was like, I can see why people enjoy this movie. It's not my cup of tea, but I can see why people enjoy it. And that's kind of what I'm getting at with what you were saying is like, yes, you could have good kids movies and bad kids movies. That doesn't equate enjoyability because, like I said, Notebook I think is probably a good movie. I just didn't like it.
Right.
But so fundamentally, I know some people say it's all subjective, and it kind of is. But if you study theater and storytelling, there is actually objective things that you could take from plots and say whether it's good or bad or not.
I mean, this
goes back to ancient Greece.
Yeah. There's no reason why I'm going to collectively say we as adult males would love Finding Nemo 2 or Finding Dory.
Which is a fantastic
fucking movie. We all loved it because of what it delivered. I mean, yes, kids will love it too, but
Yeah.
I think Disney or Pixar in this case was really like genius in that. Well, kids aren't going to go to the movies by themselves. Who's going to take the kids to the movies?
So you included a little bit of that humor, yeah.
Yeah. So you include
and one
that.
of the things, and I did a study on this in college actually, and one of the things that we really examined is catharsis in kids media.
Mm-hmm.
So much of children's media is really for two things. One, yes, absolutely, it's to make money off of children.
Sure.
100%. Again, that's a baseline argument.
Yeah,
for
sell those toys.
All media that exists in the world.
That's
right?
why George Lucas was such a fucking genius with the merchandising ranks.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a given. It's an absolute given. So yes, all media is designed to sell stuff to children, right? But at the heart of almost everything, most kids media is meant to teach children catharsis and emotion, right? So my favorite example is something like American Tail, right? If you take American Tail and you actually look at what American Tail is about, that movie is about immigration.
Oh yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Death,
persecution,
racism, homelessness, slave labor,
genocide.
Genocide, like all of these things, right? It's framed in this strange way, but and much like Finding Nemo, because Finding Nemo does the same thing, up all of these movies, but American Tail frames all of those things in a consumable way that children can look at those elements without realizing that that's what they're looking at. So now they can start to learn how to process the idea of something like immigration. They can start to process the idea of treating somebody differently because of how they look. They can start to process those things without even realizing that that's what they're doing.
Sure.
Finding Nemo is a fantastic example. That movie starts with the death of a parent. That is, what?
And not a calm one at that.
Not a calm one at
frantic
that.
and it's violent. Yeah.
Right? But if you think about it, sure, as an adult, we're like, holy shit, they went there. Like, we know what that means, right? But as a child, they might start asking questions. So now, if that child has a parent that dies, they now have a reference point for how to process grief, because they can look at it and be like, oh, mom died just like Finding Nemo. They have something to relate it to, and it allows them to have a catharsis during grief. And 90%, I'd venture to say probably 99%, most of children's media is designed that way. Good children's media has those elements into it. That's why it works for adults, and that's why it works for children. So you can have that baseline to sell shit to kids, but you're also selling emotional process. And that's what separates something like Finding Nemo from Space Jam, from Space Jam 2. Like, that they're different ideas, but they're doing that same thing, right?
And you're right, though, because I'm assuming we've all studied theater at some point. Catharsis itself is such an important part of the storytelling process. But we're talking about if it's kids' movies, comedies, even Step Brothers has catharsis in it.
It does.
Like
catharsis, character development.
Yeah, and even Step Brothers, I'm not saying is a great cinematic achievement, but even Step Brothers has catharsis. It's you experiencing this thing and having a moment, and that these are really important. Even in the original Space Jam, you do have those moments. Don't tell me you didn't feel something when Bill Murray got on the court and played after running.
When he's juking and jiving and tricking.
When Michael Jordan makes his great re-entrance to the baseball, or when he decides to go back to basketball, like these are cathartic moments that are great.
Yeah.
And we don't have to talk about Space Jam 2 again, but those, like, there is bad cinema, and the defense of it's just a kids movie, as Derrick clearly just pointed out, is such a cop-out. Because even if it's just a kids movie, I'm not sure if it was your page, Derrick, or another friend's page that I was getting.
It probably was mine. I had a lot of staunch defenders.
Yeah.
I've never seen people stand for a movie that's just not good,
it's not even good
as hard as they did for Space Jam.
But
I was baffled
it was
by
weird.
how hard
it was
people
super weird.
stand for this.
But I even said, I was like, what? So, because I think, I forgot whose page it was on, but this person was making the argument of, not every movie has to be Citizen Kane. Not every movie has to be that. Some movies, they just don't care. It's for the money, as you said. And I was like, but wouldn't it benefit them to make a better movie so that people go and see it more? Mm-hmm. Even like toys and all that shit aside, if they make a good movie, it would follow logic that some people might go back to the theater. Some people might buy it on Blu-ray. So there's no reason why someone would want to make a bad movie. Everyone's trying to make a good movie. Mm-hmm. So trying to excuse a bad movie for being part of a genre just doesn't make sense, because you're still trying to make a good movie. No one tries to make a bad movie. Even when you're doing Sharknado, you're still You're trying to make a good
You're
movie.
making a good bad movie.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, and that's something that has been very difficult for me as I've ventured into kind of this criticism world of like, you know, this idea of like, oh, it's a kids movie. Okay, fine, if you want to go with that argument, but like that doesn't excuse it from criticism. Like,
Yeah.
It's still media that's put out there to be criticized, whether that's good or bad.
Yeah.
And you don't have to agree with me, but it's not exempt from being criticized simply because you want to give it this cop-out blanket statement of like, oh, well, it's not meant for you. That's all well and fine. But
Sure.
as a critic, as a reviewer, it's still a movie I have to watch, and I have to look at it from a critical eye. So genre becomes important. All of those things become very important. And, you know, kind of along the lines of you know, what you were talking about in that idea is like, you know, nobody as a critic, we're not actively rooting for films to fail. Like I don't go into, I'm not sitting back just, oh, I can't wait to write a horrible review of this movie. Like I don't do that. Like,
you're not like S&M. You're not trying to hurt somebody. Like,
I'm
not getting off on it.
I'm
Yeah.
legitimately not. And the reason I enjoy doing film criticism and the reason I enjoy reviewing movies and the reason I enjoy watching movies is because I just genuinely enjoy film.
Yeah.
I do. I love the medium. I love it so much. And I think you can do so many great things in media, but just like anything else, not everything is good.
Yeah.
And I try to be very fair. I try to focus on genre. That's why I'm very particular about like, okay, you can say that, yeah, it's a kid's movie, but like I said, that doesn't exempt it from criticism, but I'm going to judge it on whether or not it's a good kid's movie. Space Jam 2 is not a good kid's movie.
Easily.
It's just not. Like, it's not at all.
And just to build off that, like as you were talking, I was like, well, what's a good kids movie that like adults really wouldn't like back up? And like the only thing that came to mind was Homeward Bound. Like
I like Homeward Bound.
No, I'm saying,
I
but
still
like we saw
like
that
it.
when we were kids, and like that is a kids movie. It's about animals that can communicate with each other. Nobody can understand the animals. No people in the movie can.
I don't know,
but there's more character developed with those animals than with the human characters.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I mean, we're kind of just repeating ourselves, but yeah, I don't even know what I was about to say right now. I had something in mind and then I just forgot it.
You gotta lay
yeah,
off
no,
the pipe,
but
Mike.
it is. It's really frustrating. It's frustrating, especially
Next time I'm just going to
with
interrupt
this
everybody
movie.
because I forgot.
Yeah, whatever. I'll talk about this forever, so just cut me off. I don't
No,
care.
you're good. You're good.
But yeah, no, it is really frustrating to hear so many people come out for that, especially when I'm not going to say any names, and I'm not going to throw specific people under the bus.
Sure.
But especially when you come out that hard for a movie this bad, and I know movies that you champion that are absolute dog shit that aren't kids movies, that are just bad movies, and you will not like. I'm sorry, but you don't get to use that argument.
Yeah.
Like you just don't. And if you're and I think we're talking about the same conversation, but like if you're really gonna go hard on that, then what the fuck are you doing watching movies in the first place? Like you are going so hard into this, oh, it's a kid's movie, therefore you can't say anything about it, to the point where like just don't watch movies then, because your argument is that all movies have the same base and all movies have the same baseline. So just stop watching movies.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
why are we arguing about this? Like,
so I kind of remember what I was going to say. So the argument, kind of not just the kids argument, but the movie, like because even like I said, there are movies that I enjoy that I know are objectively bad, because they're not the same thing. Objectively good movie is not the same as enjoying something. Mm-hmm. So when someone says, I'm like, okay, or you reviewed a movie, you analyze it, even using Aristotle things like the storytelling, and you're like, okay, this movie was not good. And someone's like, well, I enjoyed it. Great. Still not a good movie. Yeah. That's not a defense.
Yeah.
You're saying you liked it is not a defense.
Because Shoot 'em Up was enjoyable. It was not a good movie.
Shoot 'em Up was a shit show.
But
it was fun.
But I will say, because I love Shoot 'em Up. That's one of those things. But I will actually say that much like Sharknado,
it was self-aware.
Shoot 'em Up is very self-aware. That movie knows exactly what it is, not just in title, but in the way that it functions. It never tries to be anything other than the absolute bare bones of a shoot 'em up movie.
Yeah.
And it knows that. Now, that does not mean that everybody should enjoy it, and that does not mean that it's a great movie. Not at all. But that self-awareness goes a long way.
It gives you points.
I will buy a lot of stuff if I can tell that you are self-aware. When you are self-aware of the movie that you're making and you're not trying to add this layer of pretentiousness and try to, you know what? I'll give you a great example. Suicide Squad versus The Suicide Squad.
I haven't seen it yet. So no spoilers.
So
it's good.
So
I know it's good.
But I won't give you any spoilers, but I will say this. In comparison to those two movies, right? I will say that both of them are actually narratively just as messy. Absolutely. Like, they're if you really break it down, James Gunn's movie isn't more narratively cohesive than Suicide Squad. The biggest difference is James Gunn knows exactly what kind of movie
I've heard that, though, yeah.
He understands the source material. He understands what it means to make a Suicide Squad movie and just runs with it. So you can excuse a lot of the narrative things because it becomes more enjoyable. You get that they're, whatever. David Ayer is not a superhero filmmaker. He's a drama filmmaker. He's a very pretentious type of filmmaker. Now he is. I'm not
disagreeing. Some would call that avant-garde.
Yeah, but he is. He's a very pretentious filmmaker. Everything he does has to be weighty and drama and have all this meaning that's attached to it. And
sure.
One could argue that Training Day is his magnum opus. That's one of the best movies that he's made. I don't like Training Day, and I know I'm in the minority of that. But when you look at somebody that makes Training Day, you should not look at them and go, that guy's perfect for Suicide Squad.
Yes, okay,
that just doesn't make, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that seems so obvious. It seems so obvious.
But Suicide Squad suffers from two things. It suffers from a director who wants to be pretentious and make something that's important. And the source material doesn't lend it. There's nothing important about expendable bottom of the barrel villain heroes. Like, there's nothing important about that. That's not important to anybody. So that's where you kind of see that difference. Like, Gunn knows what movie he's making. So even though the narrative is still messy, you're still like, okay, but I can sit back and enjoy the hell out of this. This one is so pretentious that you're like, yeah, these narrative issues are not allowing me to enjoy this.
Well, I think you kind of, maybe on purpose, maybe not, kind of made a good point that I was kind of saying too, is that you said the two movies are equally not cohesive. Now, that's an objective thing, but one is more enjoyable. So you could say you could give them both technically like B ratings if you want, but say this one's more enjoyable though. On paper, the bare bones of it, not very different, but this one's more enjoyable. This one's not, like you said, because it's self-aware, and that self-awareness does buy you points. But I think you
have to take those things into consideration. You absolutely have to. Like, and it's something that I think a lot of people, and I know we're just walking in circles because we're kind of saying the same thing, but that your point of enjoyability does not equal quality. People forget that, and they forget that when they read reviews. They forget that when they approach films. And I understand, even as a reviewer, films are subjective, so you do not have to agree with my opinion. I share the article because I literally get paid to write reviews. It is part of a job that I do. And there are countless times where I review movies I don't even want to watch. But I have to do it, so I have to sit back with a bit of objectivity. And I'm not out to trouse the movie, but like, I have to consider, is this good objectively? And then was this good subjectively? And then put all of those thoughts in there. And nobody's forcing you to agree with me, but coming at me and saying like, oh, well, it's a kid's movie, so what did you expect?
That's a smokescreen.
I don't know. I expected a good movie.
And I will say a lot of people nowadays, and I think it's because the internet is such a mainstay in our lives, have determined that opinion now equals fact. And that's a huge topic that we can tackle some other time.
Yeah.
But it's that people believe now that any opinion they read on the internet or elsewhere is fact, and it's not. Media has always been subjective and will always be subjective.
Right.
Yeah. But I want to make a point. Like I said, I think Derrick touched on it too. There is a way to judge movies, plays, any type of storytelling device objectively. There are ways to look at it objectively. Whether or not you enjoyed it is irrelevant. For instance, if Danny was sitting here eating a piece of raw chicken, I could tell him, Danny, objectively, that chicken is not cooked and you should not eat it. If Danny says, well, I enjoy eating raw chicken, cool. Doesn't mean I'm wrong that he should not eat that raw chicken, whether or not he enjoys eating
Doesn't mean I'm wrong.
But that's my point. Like, you can take a story and objectively break it down to its brass tactics. Who's the protagonist? What's the character development? Is he the same person at the end of the movie that he's at the beginning of the movie? There's tons of things that are objectively arguable. Yeah. I enjoyed it, or it's the genre or whatever, is not an objective defense. It's just...
And you have to be able to, as you're looking at movie, and I'm not saying everybody has to be a critic. I know everybody thinks they are. But,
sure, yeah.
I'm not saying
hey, I'm on Yelp, okay?
but when you are staunchly defending a movie with the defense that just doesn't make sense, you are absolutely letting your enjoyment or subjectivity override those things that are objectively bad about the film.
Absolutely.
That doesn't deter you from enjoying the movie. Like, I know plenty of people that walked away from Space Jam 2 and they were like, I fucking loved it. Awesome. Great. Good for you.
That's what I just said.
Good for you.
We have a friend who I won't say his name just in case, but absolutely abhors Batman and Robin because his favorite Batman villain is but his favorite Batman villain is Mr. Freeze. And he's like, I fucking hate that movie, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, I know it's not good, but I enjoy watching it. And I was like, no, to piss him off, I'm like, it's a great movie. But just to piss him off. But objectively, that movie is dog shit. But I really do enjoy it because I love chaos. But
well, look, I enjoy Batman Forever, and that movie is horrible.
Oh, same thing.
Like, that movie is dog shit.
It's horrible. But my point is, if somebody,
I love that movie. I get a gleeful joy from watching that.
But my point is, if like he comes at me and he's like, "You like Batman Forever or Batman and Robin, Batman Forever too?" Sure, and I'm like, "Yeah, I like it." They're like, "You know that movie's dog shit." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." Yeah. It's kind of like when the Lakers were in their slump and were really bad, and someone's like, "You're a Laker fan?" Yeah, you know they suck right now, right? I'm like, "Yeah, I still that's my team. Like I'm still down for it." Yeah. But that's what you said, and I think we could probably button on it. And I've said it 1,000 times. I think you said too. Quality does not equal enjoyability. You can enjoy eating raw chicken. It does not mean it's good.
Right. Correct.
Right. You know what I mean? Like
that is your choice, and I know that's a slippery slope, and we can.
But on the surface.
But in media, particularly film is both objective and subjective.
Yes.
There are things that are in order to make a film, you have to have objective things. Like you have to have a narrative, you've got to have cinematography, you've got to have pacing, you've got to have actors, and all of those things are just objective. You can't have them. You can't have a film without any of those things. They all need to be there. Now, how you put those all together, that's up to the director, that's up to the writer, that's up to how you put films together. Some do it better than others, some do it in different genres, but all of those things are absolutely objective. And then the subjectivity is, how have you interpreted those things, and what was your interpretation, and did you have a good interpretation or a bad interpretation? That's how film works, but it doesn't override the objectivity of those things that are in there.
The way I had a professor say it one time is, if you're looking at like the human body, the bone structure would be the objectivity. The bone structure itself is what's objective. The meat on it, the flesh, is what's subjective. So you can enjoy certain things, but when you get to the bare roots of it, the bone, that's what's objective. And I don't think a lot of people get that. And I do think like we should do an episode, maybe Derrick will come back, like actually breaking down like Aristotle's, I think it's Aristotle's The Poetics. I studied it in theater school, where he actually breaks down like how to look at, like, how to create stories, what makes a good story, what's required. And that, granted, even if you do all those things, it can be really not enjoyable. If anyone watches like Greek drama, none of that shit's enjoyable.
None of it's enjoyable.
Right. Yeah.
And I've done Greek drama.
Yeah, Trojan Women is the fucking worst 2 hours you can spend of your life.
Almost as bad as Antigone.
Almost as bad. So again, but so there is. Yeah, we're going in circles now. But
I just all this to say, Space Jam: A New Legacy is a shit movie.
It's objectively bad. If you enjoy it, great.
Yeah, it's objectively bad, but if you enjoy it, good for you.
Good.
You had a better 2 hours than we did.
Yeah. It was 2 hours.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
I got home last night late, and I was like, okay, Space Jam, hour 15, hour and a half. And I saw hour 55. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Man, I can tell you right now, I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, that's fine.
I am so tired of this 2 hour limit.
Yeah.
Like I don't know where this came from, and I don't know where everybody thought that the new standard for movies is 2 hours or more, but I'm over it already. Like I am so,
I got shit to do.
Dude, it's not even like, look, if your movie, my issue with it, I'll try to say this quick. My issue with it is not every narrative requires this much time to unpack.
Yes.
It just simply does not.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
what ends up happening is I've seen maybe 12 movies in theaters, 10 to 12 movies in theaters. Out of all of them, maybe 2 need that 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
All the rest of them, you could cut 40 minutes out of that movie. They'd be exactly the same. There'd be no difference.
I've always felt like in my head, anyway, I've not been taught this, but in my head, if it's like a comedy or a kid's movie, because the kids have low attention spans anyway, hour to hour and a half, 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. If it's like a heavy drama, a war movie, that's when you go to 2 hours, maybe a little longer. If it's an epic, Endgame, Godfather, something like that, that's when you push the 2.5 to 3 hours. But for the most part, that 90-minute mark, I'll say right now, so we all know, last night at like 10 p.m. is when I was like, hey, let's talk about Space Jam tomorrow. It's when I think I texted you, I messaged you. If I had known it was a 2-hour movie, would not have happened. I assumed it was like hour 20, hour 30. Yeah. And that extra half hour makes a difference.
yeah, but honestly, all of them, Jungle Cruise, Snake Eyes, even Black Widow, I can't even name them all, but every, even the Suicide Squad, as much as I loved it, and I loved the hell out of that movie, 100%, just a little bit too long. Cut out 30 minutes of that movie, and it probably would have been narratively better, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And that's my issue is like, most of these narratives do not require this much time to unfold. They just don't. Like, not everything needs to be this 2.5 hour. Like,
I absolutely agree.
It's draining. It's absolutely draining because you're just like, this should have been wrapped up by now. Like, there's no reason for this.
There's a lot of irony to what you're saying right now. Because I feel like
we've gone a little long here. I was like, we need to cut about 20 to 30 minutes out of this episode.
Literally, as you were saying that, I was like, I think each one of us has said the same point at least five times on every topic. Yeah. And I was like, you're like, it's about time to wrap up.
Mike. That's why we have editors, and your job is to edit out 30 minutes of this podcast.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. We're going to run it.
I'm lazy.
Because the people need to know.
The people need to suffer. All right. Take us out.
So, Derrick, thank you for coming on. Appreciated your viewpoint. Your opinions.
Go on. Sorry, I just thought of something.
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
You're gonna let me do the outro, and you're gonna interrupt me.
I'm gonna interrupt the outro. Then I'll get back to you. I was gonna say, I'm not sure if you were. Derrick is part of the Jack of All Nerds, and he also writes for NerdBot. So check out his work.
Yes, please.
And you're doing your own video reviews now.
I am. Yes. Yeah. I'm doing about 3 a month because they're very strenuous. Like, they take a lot of work. And I don't even do the video editing. I have somebody else do it for me, and even they have to spend a lot of time doing it. But I am doing those. So check out my channel on YouTube. You can just find me at Derrick Murray.
We'll post it in
Facebook, too. Whatever. I'll post it all. But yeah, check us out at Jack of All Nerds. There's tons of great nerd content on there. Check out NerdBot. I review, I don't know,
absurd amount of movies.
It's insane.
I
keep starting all these new ones too.
I almost get annoyed sometimes, like in a loving way, where I'm scrolling. It's like, reviewed another movie. I was like, I don't go. He reviewed another one. All right, so if you want to read about movies, I guarantee you Derrick has probably reviewed it.
I do about 4 or 5 a week, honestly. I do about 4 or 5 movies a week. Yeah, some old, some new, but
yeah. All
right. Derrick, thanks a lot for coming on. For Michael Glennie.
Yes.
I'm Daniel Anthony. We'll see you next time.